The moment my phone buzzed during lunch with my sister, I didn't think much of it. Just another text, another distraction. But when I glanced at the screen, my blood ran cold. The message was from an unknown number, and it read, "Don't react. They're recording you." My fork froze halfway to my mouth. The restaurant suddenly felt too quiet, too sharp, like every eye was on me. My sister was still chatting, completely oblivious, while my heart thudded so hard I thought it might echo across the table. I forced a smile, nodding at whatever story she was telling, but inside, panic clawed at my chest. Who was recording me? Why? And most importantly, who sent me that warning? I wanted to look around, to scan every corner of the room, but the words, "Don't react," chained me in place. Every sip of water, every bite of food, every glance at my sister felt staged, like I was a puppet on a string. My palms grew slick with sweat as the thought drilled into my mind, what if this was more than just surveillance? What if it was a setup? I reached for my phone under the table, trying to type back, but another text appeared, "Stay calm. Don't trust her." The words slammed into me like a hammer. Don't trust her? My sister? The person sitting across from me, laughing, eating, acting as if everything was perfectly normal? I looked at her, trying not to tremble. For the first time in my life, I wasn't sure if the person I thought I knew better than anyone else was actually my enemy. That was the moment I realized, my life had just been thrown into a game I didn't understand, and the rules could kill me. I still remember the sunlight pouring through the tall glass windows of the cafe that afternoon. Warm and golden, the kind of light that makes everything feel safe. My sister had chosen the place, a small, trendy spot on the corner of the street, where people sipped coffee while tapping on laptops and couples leaned close over tiny tables. Nothing about it seemed threatening. Nothing about it hinted at the storm that was about to erupt in my life. She was already seated when I walked in, waving to me with that easy smile of hers, the one I'd grown up with. Her hair was tucked neatly behind her ears, her blazer perfectly pressed, and her phone sat face down on the table like a silent witness. I slid into the chair across from her, feeling the comfort of routine. This was supposed to be just another lunch, one of those catch-up moments siblings squeeze in between busy lives. Finally, she teased as I sat down. "I thought you got lost again." I laughed, shaking my head. "Traffic. You know how it is." We ordered quickly, grilled salmon for her, chicken pasta for me, and as the waiter walked away, she leaned in, asking about work, about my boss, about things she usually only half listened to. I didn't notice it then, but there was something sharper in her tone, something more focused than her usual casual curiosity. At the time, I just thought she was in one of her serious moods. I reached for my glass of water just as my phone buzzed against the table. The sound was ordinary, harmless. I didn't think twice. I picked it up, expecting maybe a message from a coworker or a reminder from my calendar. What I saw instead froze the air in my lungs. The number wasn't saved. Unknown. The text was short, sharp, and terrifying. Don't react. They're recording you. For a second, I thought it had to be some mistake, maybe a prank or spam message. But the words pulsed on the screen like a warning light, impossible to ignore. My hand trembled slightly, and I set the phone down, screen face down. My mind racing. My sister was still talking, her fork tapping lightly against her plate, but her voice felt distant, muffled, as if I were suddenly underwater. I tried to smile, tried to nod, but my throat had gone dry. Who was recording me? What did they mean? I wanted to glance around the cafe, scan the faces of the people eating, talking, typing, but the command "Don't react" locked me in place. My body was frozen in an act of forced normalcy while my inside screamed, "Are you even listening?" My sister laughed, tilting her head. I forced out a chuckle, pushing some pasta around my plate. "Yeah, sorry. Just tired." Another buzz. Another message. My pulse hammered as I slid the phone slightly toward me, pretending to adjust my napkin. Stay calm. Don't trust her. Her. My sister, the words punched me harder than the first message. I glanced at her across the table, her lips moving as she described something about a project at her office, her hands animated in that familiar way. She looked so normal, so familiar, and yet, suddenly, I couldn't see her the same way. My stomach turned. Was it possible? Could she really be involved in something like this? I wanted to dismiss it, to tell myself it was some sick joke. But then I remembered the way she had been asking more questions than usual, her strange interest in things she usually brushed off. And something in her eyes, sharp and curious, made me uneasy in a way I couldn't explain. I chewed slowly, forcing myself to swallow, my mind spinning with scenarios. Was there a camera hidden in the restaurant? Was her phone recording me? Was she? Every laugh, every word I said now felt like it might be replayed later, analyzed by unseen people. She leaned forward suddenly, her voice low. So, do you still keep those files from work on your laptop? You know, the ones you used to complain about? My fork froze midair. Files. Why was she asking about files? She had never cared about my job beyond surface-level chatter. A chill crept down my spine. I managed to shrug, forcing a casual tone. Not really. Why? Oh, nothing, she said quickly, almost too quickly. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Just curious. Another vibration under the table. My hands went cold. I pulled the phone slightly into view. Leave soon. Don't tell her. Your life depends on it. I sat there, my face carefully neutral, while my insides screamed with panic. My sister sipped her drink, eyes steady on me. While I wondered if I was looking at the person who had shared my childhood, or a stranger wearing her skin by the time the waiter came back to refill our glasses, I had made a silent decision. I needed to find out the truth. I needed to know who was warning me, who was recording me, and most of all, whether the person sitting across the table was my sister, or my enemy, and with every second that ticked by, the danger pressed closer. As if the walls of that little cafe were closing in around me. My heart was pounding so hard I thought my sister could hear it across the table. Every word she spoke washed over me like static, meaningless noise compared to the glowing warning messages on my phone. Don't react. Don't trust her. Leave. Soon. They burned in my mind like red-hot iron, branding themselves into my thoughts. I nodded at her story about some office colleague while my mind screamed at me to get out. I excused myself with a half-smile. I'll be right back. Just need the restroom. She didn't question it. She just gave a small nod and returned to scrolling her phone, her fingers moving quickly as if she were sending her own messages. That sight alone made my skin crawl. Was she reporting to someone? The hallway to the restroom was dimmer, quieter, and with each step away from the main dining area, I felt my breath grow lighter, freer, but also more frantic. I pushed open the restroom door, checked quickly under the stalls like some paranoid detective, then locked myself in the farthest one. Only then did I dare to pull out my phone. The screen lit up with the last message. Leave soon. Don't tell her. Your life depends on it. My thumbs shook as I typed back quickly. Who are you? The reply came almost instantly, as if the sender had been waiting, watching. Someone who wants to keep you alive. I froze, staring at the words. Alive. That wasn't a word people used lightly. My throat tightened. Why me? Why her? I typed, my breath shallow, the bubbles appeared, then disappeared. A pause. Then, she's working against you. You don't realize what you carry. They want it. If you stay, you're dead. My mouth went dry. What I carried. I wasn't smuggling anything. I wasn't hiding some great secret. I worked a normal job, lived a routine life. Unless they meant the files. A memory struck me like lightning. Weeks ago, I had taken home some encrypted company data by mistake. My boss had asked me to move them securely, but the transfer had failed. I'd copied them to my laptop and forgotten about them. Could those files be what this was about? And was my sister trying to get them? The thought sent a shiver down my spine. I typed back quickly, "What do you want me to do?" Another instant reply, "Walk out calmly. Don't run. Don't let her suspect. Blend into the crowd outside. I'll guide you." My chest tightened. Whoever this was, they weren't just guessing, they knew exactly where I was, what I was doing, maybe even what I was feeling. Were they in the cafe right now, watching? I thought about peeking through the restroom door, scanning the tables. But my own reflection in the mirror stopped me. My face was pale, sweat beading on my forehead, eyes wide and haunted. If I walked out looking like that, my sister would know something was wrong instantly. I leaned against the cold tiled wall, pressing my palms to it, forcing myself to breathe slowly. Calm down. Control your face. Control your body. Pretend it's just another lunch. I typed one last question, "Why are you helping me?" This time, the response took longer. The dots blinked, stopped, blinked again. Finally, the message appeared. "Because I owe you. More than you'll ever understand. Trust me." I stared at those words, my pulse skipping. Owe me? Who? I didn't remember saving anyone's life, didn't remember doing anything extraordinary. My life was quiet, unremarkable, or so I thought. The phone slipped slightly in my sweaty grip as I read the words again, my mind tangled in confusion. A sharp knock on the restroom door jolted me. My sister's voice came muffled through the wood. "Hey, you okay, in there? You've been gone a while." My entire body went rigid. She was checking on me. Did she suspect? Did she know I'd been texting? "I'm fine." I called out, forcing a light tone. "Be out in a sec." Silence. Then the sound of her footsteps retreating. I shoved the phone into my pocket, splashed cold water on my face, and looked at myself again in the mirror. My eyes still carried that hunted look, but I forced my mouth into a faint, tired smile. Normal. I had to look normal. When I stepped out of the restroom and walked back to the table, my sister looked up at me with a small, curious smile. Her eyes lingered on me a little too long, as if searching for something in my expression. "You good?" she asked casually, lifting her glass. "Yeah," I said, sliding back into my chair. "Just needed a minute." She nodded, but the air between us felt heavier now, like a stage play where both actors knew the other was hiding their real lines. I poked at the remnants of my pasta, my phone burning against my leg like a secret too dangerous to hold. As we finished the meal, my mind replayed the message over and over, "Walk out calmly. Don't let her suspect." When the check arrived, I didn't argue when she reached for it. I let her pay, thanked her, even smiled. I stood slowly, sliding my jacket on, keeping my movements steady, controlled. Outside the cafe, the street buzzed, with people moving in every direction. My phone buzzed again. I glanced at it discreetly. Good. Now blend in. Don't look back. I exhaled, stepped into the crowd, and for the first time in my life, walking down a familiar street felt like stepping into a battlefield. The city outside felt louder than usual, as if every car horn, every voice, every shuffle of feet was amplified against the panic thrumming in my chest. I stepped onto the sidewalk, trying to blend into the moving crowd just as the message had instructed. My sister was still inside the cafe, probably finishing her drink, maybe watching me through the window. I didn't dare turn around to check. The one rule screamed in my head, don't look back. The late afternoon sun hung low, painting the tops of buildings in orange light. People hurried past me, some on phones, some laughing, others lost in their own worlds. I tried to match their pace, casual but purposeful, as if I had somewhere to be. Inside, my heart was racing like I was sprinting. I slid my hands into my jacket pockets to hide the way they trembled. My phone buzzed again. I angled it discreetly. Good. Keep moving with the crowd. Don't stop. I obeyed, each step feeling heavier than the last. I wanted to ask where I was going, who I was following, but some instinct told me not to demand too much too soon. Whoever this was, they had eyes on me. That much was clear. Half a block later, another buzz. At the corner, wait for the black SUV. Don't hesitate. My stomach dropped. A black SUV. The exact kind of vehicle that, in movies, always spelled either salvation or doom. I imagined tinted windows, faceless men inside, the doors sliding open and hands dragging me in before I could scream. My breaths came faster, and I forced myself to slow them, not to break the facade. People around me would notice if I panicked. As I approached the intersection, I spotted it. A sleek black SUV slowing near the curb, its tinted windows glinting under the fading sunlight. My legs felt like they were carrying me into a trap, but I kept moving. The SUV inched closer, its engine humming low, predatory. The rear window rolled down just enough for me to see a pair of sharp eyes staring at me. They belonged to a woman, maybe in her 30s, dark hair pulled back, her gaze locked onto mine with an intensity that pinned me in place. Get in if you want to live, she said, her voice low but firm, carrying even through the noise of the street. Every instinct screamed at me to run in the opposite direction, but the warning texts echoed in my mind. Don't trust her. Don't stay. Don't stop. I hesitated for only a fraction of a second before yanking open the door and sliding inside. The interior smelled faintly of leather and coffee. The door shut behind me, muffling the city sounds. The woman's eyes flicked to me, then to the street, scanning. She gave a short nod to the driver, a man with cropped hair and hands steady on the wheel. Without a word, he pulled into traffic, blending seamlessly with the flow of cars. I sat stiff, my hands gripping my knees, unable to hide the tremor in my fingers. Who are you? I demanded, my voice hoarse. The woman glanced at me briefly. Right now, the only person keeping you alive. That doesn't mean anything, I snapped, my fear bubbling over as anger. Why the hell should I trust you? For all I know, you're one of them, she finished for me, her voice calm, almost rehearsed. If I were, you wouldn't be breathing right now. The certainty in her tone cut through my protest, leaving me silent. My breaths came uneven, my chest tightening with every second. She leaned forward, her voice lowering. Listen carefully. Your sister isn't who you think she is. She's been compromised. They've been using her to get to you. I shook my head instantly. No. That's insane. She's my sister. She wouldn't. Her sharp gaze cut into mine. Haven't you noticed? The questions she's been asking? Things she never cared about before? They sent her. They want the files. The word of files hit me like a punch. My mouth went dry. I swallowed hard, unable to speak. Yes, she said, reading my reaction like an open book. You know exactly what I'm talking about. The ones you brought home from work. The ones you shouldn't have. I stammered, I didn't mean to. It was just a mistake, a transfer issue. Mistake or not, she cut me off. You're holding something very valuable. Valuable. Enough that they'll use family against you. Valuable enough that you're sitting in this car with strangers instead of enjoying lunch with your sister. Her words were like ice water, soaking me in a reality I didn't want to accept. My sister's smile, her laugh, the way she teased me minutes ago, it all clashed with the image of her as some manipulator working with shadowy people. I don't believe you, I muttered weakly, though even to myself it sounded hollow. You don't have to, she replied smoothly. Just stay alive long enough to see the truth. The SUV turned sharply, weaving into a quieter side street. I realized then that I was fully in their hands, my fate tied to these strangers. Yet, somewhere deep inside, a cold certainty spread through me. If I had stayed at that cafe, I wouldn't have walked out alive. I pressed my back into the seat, staring at the blur of the city outside the window, and whispered to myself the question I didn't dare ask aloud: what have I gotten myself into? The SUV sped through back streets I didn't recognize, weaving between alleys and side roads as though the driver knew every hidden path in the city. I sat rigid in the back seat, my gaze flicking between the dark-haired woman beside me and the blur of neon signs flashing past the tinted windows. Every bump in the road jolted me, not just physically but deep in my chest, where fear had planted itself like a parasite. Finally, the car slowed and stopped in an underground parking garage. The air inside heavy with gasoline and damp concrete. The driver killed the engine. The woman turned to me, her eyes steady, her tone sharp. Before you ask anything, you need to understand this. What you've been carrying isn't just data. It's leverage. It's a key. And there are people who'd kill to have it. My mouth was dry, words sticking to the back of my throat. You keep saying that, the files. I don't even know what they contain. I just copied them, she interrupted, one brow arched. Kept them on your laptop? Walked around with them like they were grocery lists? She leaned in closer, her voice dropping. Do you realize how dangerous that makes you? I blinked rapidly, shaking my head. No, I was going to delete them. I thought they were just some work reports. The driver chuckled bitterly. Reports, he muttered under his breath, as if the word itself was a joke. The woman ignored him. Her gaze stayed locked on me. Those files are encrypted blueprints. Sensitive technology. And you, she jabbed a finger toward me, you accidentally walked into the center of a storm. A chill crawled down my spine. So you're telling me my sister, my voice faltered, the words tasting foreign in my mouth. She's part of this? The woman hesitated, then nodded once. She was approached months ago. They offered her money, power, protection, whatever it took. At first, she refused. But people have weaknesses, and they found hers. She's been feeding them information, trying to get close enough to you to access your laptop. I wanted to shout, to call her a liar, but the memory of lunch clawed its way back, the way my sister had leaned forward, asking about files, her sudden interest in things she'd never cared about. That one moment replayed in my head, sharper now, more sinister. No, I whispered, shaking my head violently. She wouldn't. She's my sister. She raised me after Mom died. My throat closed, the woman's eyes softened for the first time since I met her. I'm not saying she doesn't love you. But love isn't always enough when people are cornered. The words landed like stones in my chest. I thought of my sister's smile, the lunches we'd shared, the nights we'd laughed over childhood stories. Could all of that be real and still coexist with betrayal? Could she really play both roles, caring sister and secret manipulator? I pressed my palms against my face, groaning. Why me? Why not just take the files some other way? Because you're the only one with full access, she said plainly. And you're predictable. They knew you'd never question your sister. That's why she was their perfect weapon. My stomach churned. Everything suddenly made sense, the texts warning me, the strange looks, the way she had seemed more focused, more curious than usual. I hated how the puzzle pieces fit together. The woman leaned back, crossing her arms. You've got two choices now. 1, you go back, pretend nothing's wrong, hand her the files, and wait for your life to fall apart. Or 2, you work with us, stay ahead of them, and maybe, just maybe, get out alive. Her words cut through the stale air of the parking garage, heavy and final. Work with you? I asked, my voice trembling. Who even are you? Why should I believe a word you're saying? She exchanged a glance with the driver, then returned her gaze to me. Because I'm the one who sent the texts. The admission slammed into me. My eyes widened, my breath hitched. You? Yes, she said firmly. And I meant every word. If you'd stayed at that table with her, you'd be in a van right now heading somewhere you'd never come back from. My skin prickled. Cold. I wanted to deny it, to cling to the comfort of ignorance, but deep down, something told me she was right. My gut, the same gut that had made me leave the cafe without looking back, whispered that she was telling the truth. Still, I clung to one thread of hope. What if she doesn't know? What if she's being used too? The woman's lips pressed into a thin line. Then the kindest thing you can do is stay away until you know for sure. But don't make the mistake of underestimating her. People surprise you, especially the ones you trust most. I leaned back in the seat, my mind unraveling. My sister's face swirled in my thoughts, flashing between love and suspicion, between the person who once held my hand when I was afraid of the dark and the woman who might now be holding the knife pointed at my back. Silence filled the SUV, heavy and suffocating. The woman finally spoke again, her tone firm but not unkind. Decide quickly. Because if you hesitate too long, the choice will be made for you, and not in your favor. I stared at my shaking hands, the weight of betrayal pressing down on me. And for the first time, I realized the hardest battle wasn't with the people chasing me. It was with myself, and whether I could ever see my sister the same way again. That night, I sat alone in a dimly lit motel room the woman had arranged for me. The buzzing neon sign outside cast flickering shadows across the peeling wallpaper, the air thick with the smell of dust and old carpet. My mind felt just as suffocating. Every thought circling back to one face, my sister's. I kept hearing her laugh at lunch, seeing her fork tapping gently against her plate, her eyes lifting to meet mine. Could all of that have been an act? Could she really have been calculating my every word, waiting for the moment to take what I didn't even realize I had? My phone sat on the nightstand, glowing faintly with a new notification. I hesitated before picking it up, my pulse quickening. It was her. My sister, why did you leave so suddenly? I've been worried sick. Please call me. I stared at the message, torn in two. One part of me ached to believe her, to believe that she was just my sister, innocent and confused by my disappearance. The other part, the part poisoned by suspicion and the woman's warnings, whispered that every word was bait, carefully laid to lure me back. Before I could reply, another text arrived from the unknown number, the woman. She's reaching out. Don't answer. She'll sound convincing. Remember what I told you. I gritted my teeth, shoving the phone onto the bed as if the sight of it burned me. Two voices pulled me apart, blood and loyalty on one side, survival and suspicion on the other. The hours dragged on until finally, exhaustion forced me into restless sleep. But even in dreams, there was no escape. I saw my sister's face morphing. Between love and betrayal, her hand reaching for mine before turning into a claw. I woke drenched in sweat, gasping, just as my phone rang. Her name lit up the screen. My hand hovered over the device, trembling. Against all reason, against the warnings, I answered. Her voice came through, soft, almost breaking. Where are you? Please, just tell me what's going on. You scared me today. For a long moment, I said nothing. Just listened. There was real emotion in her tone, worry threaded into every syllable. If this was a performance, it was flawless. I can't. I finally whispered, can't what? She asked, confusion in her voice. I can't trust you, I said, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. A silence. Then, softly, almost like a wound being revealed, she said, so, they got to you. My blood froze. What? There. Filling your head with lies, she continued, her voice shaking now. Whoever sent you those messages, they're the real danger. I've been trying to protect you, but you won't even give me the chance. My grip on the phone tightened. Until my knuckles went white. Her words flipped the ground beneath me. Could the woman have lied? Could everything she told me be a manipulation, and my sister the only person truly trying to shield me? I don't know what to believe anymore, I admitted, my voice cracking. Believe me, she said, urgent now. You're my brother. I would never hurt you. Please, just come home. We'll fix this together. The sincerity in her voice pulled at every thread of memory we shared, her protecting me when I was bullied, her staying up late to help me with schoolwork. Her arms around me when we buried Mom. My chest ached with the weight of it all, but then I remembered the way she had leaned forward at lunch, her sudden interest in the files, the way her eyes lingered too long when she asked about them. And I remembered the woman's words, if you'd stayed at that table, you wouldn't have walked out alive. I can't, I whispered again, tears welling in my eyes. Not until I know the truth. Her voice broke, fragile and sharp. If you walk away from me now, you'll regret it forever. The line went dead. I sat there in the silence, my hands trembling, my heart torn apart. My phone buzzed almost immediately, another message from the woman. Good. You chose survival. It's the only way forward. I set the phone down and stared at the ceiling, the neon light flickering across my face. I had made a choice, but it didn't feel like victory. It felt like losing something I could never get back. Maybe my sister was guilty. Maybe she wasn't. Maybe I had just destroyed the most important relationship of my life because of whispers and warnings I barely understood. But one thing was certain, nothing between us would ever be the same again. In the end, trust hadn't been taken from me. I had given it up myself, and that, I realized bitterly, was the cruelest betrayal of all. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe to The Silent Revenge for more thrilling tales.